We're going to move on to Ukraine. Irina Sommer from the news agency Interfax Ukraine wants to know, how can upcoming parliamentary elections in Ukraine influence the relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine? And how, as the result of the upcoming presidential elections in the United States, will change the relationship between Ukraine and the United States?
Well, thank you very much for that question on Ukraine. As I referenced at the opening, we had an important meeting of the transatlantic ministers of the EU and NATO to discuss European issues, of which Ukraine was featured as well as Georgia. And in terms of the Ukrainian election, October 28th, we have been working with our European partners, urging transparency, urging that they be free, transparent, and allowing the Ukrainian people to choose their future leaders. And we will continue to do that. We are pressing for there to be monitors and are prepared to support that monitoring effort. We are providing funding to assist with that monitoring effort. And so one should take a look at what just happened in Georgia. Very encouraging to see the type of election that allows the Georgian people to pick their leadership. And Ukraine should be looking to see what its neighbors are doing in terms of allowing for that. And we have to note that we remain concerned that former Prime Minister Tymoshenko remains jailed. She should be freed. These are the kinds of things that don't lead to a conducive and positive environment for elections. So this is an issue that is very primary to U.S. interest, to European interest. We're working together, and we will be moving forward to try to, again, work to ensure that those elections take place in the manner in which the Ukrainian people deserve.
We're going to stay on Ukraine. Andrei Levrenuk wants to know, Mr. Hammer, what are the U.S. foreign policy priorities concerning Ukraine, taking into account a resolution passed last week by the U.S. Senate demanding the immediate release of former Ukrainian Prime Minister Tymoshenko and calling for sanctions against officials responsible for her imprisonment? How is the U.S. State Department considered this resolution in order to implement its recommendations?
Right. Well, thank you very much for your question, follow-up on the situation in Ukraine. We have a constant dialogue with our colleagues and partners in Congress in terms of how we can advance our mutual interests in terms of what's important for U.S. foreign policy and certainly what's important for Ukraine. And as I said, we are very focused on trying to encourage transparent, free, and fair elections in Ukraine on October 28th, and we have repeatedly called for the release of former Prime Minister Tymoshenko and an end to selective persecutions of individuals in Ukraine. So this is an issue that is very much a focus of our attention, working with members of Congress. We will be monitoring, obviously, what takes place during those elections. And again, it's a concerted effort by the European partners, by the United States, to try to do what we can to convince the Ukrainian authorities that they do conduct these elections in a free and transparent manner.